Okay.
Welcome, good morning, first day of spring. Okay, let's call the meeting to order. Review of on-site packets, is there anything in the on-site packet? Madam Chair, there's no on-site packet. Thank you, Linda. Are there any additions or revisions to the agenda? Any announcements?
We have a new special investigator, Mara Hurley. She started January 9th, and she's primarily going to work with applications with legal history.
Welcome, yay.
Evan is her trainer.
That's good news, yes. Hey, next is unfinished bit, oh, and approval of minutes, I don't know why I skipped over a minutes. Were there any additions or corrections to the minutes? I didn't see any. Didn't see any.
So I move to approve the minutes from December the 12th, 2022 as written.
Their second,
I'll second that.
it's been moved and seconded. Any more further discussion? Motion is carried. Now we move on to unfinished business, which is an update on the investigative committee changes, Linda.
So you will see on page 6 of your packet, the status update for processing changes pursuant to the board's request. The goal is still timely review of cases open to determine discipline. Some of the considerations that we've been addressing, but I was going to bring back to you this time was on how we do this logistic wise. And the Open Meetings Act, Kansas Open Meeting Act still applies. I visited with Charles Cheers, our general counsel, and with Jill Simons, our executive administrator's assistant. And to kind of figure out what we need to be able to provide. We have to do a notice of meeting that occurs about 2 weeks prior to the meeting date. We have an agenda that will have a prior approval by the chair. We'll need to decide if virtual or in person, and if virtual, then we need a statement from the general counsel to be read at the beginning of the meeting. Motions will occur as usual, minutes will be taken. The option to approve all minutes could be done at the quarterly committee meetings if you so decide. These meetings that will be scheduled in between the quarterly board meetings will be only to review case summaries for determination of disciplinary action. Anything else we'll wait until the quarterly board meeting for us to review. Committee membership is also a consideration to address. Becky, your term ends June of 2024. Audrey and Michaela, their terms end June of 2023, but both have submitted for reappointment. And I've not heard of any other board members to assist with the review of cases. So we need time to allow for training of any new committee members. So that needs to be considered. As of right now, if we don't get Michaela and Audrey, then we're back to just having one committee member on July 1st. So can we go forward on July 1st as was proposed back in January? That is something for the committee to decide, and your thoughts are welcome. The staff do feel like we would have summaries that could be ready. So it would be ready. It would be up to, Hannah and I to be able to process those and get those things timely to you, but we feel like we could do it. It's just whether or not we have committee members to review summaries. So the next item was on assessing operational efficiency for case investigations. We've looked at incoming complaints and reporting issues. Those can lead to like some educational opportunities for how to report. HR terminates without reporting. Facilities belief that staffing agency is reporting, and the staffing agencies sometimes do and sometimes don't. And then the statutes for risk management versus the Nurse Practice Act. There's a bit of a difference, and so that needs to be educational opportunity. Facility types that report. We have agencies sometimes. We have assisted living clinics, home health, hospice hospitals, long-term care nursing homes. We get other state boards of nursing. We've had one from pharmacy. rehab facility schools, and other state agencies and urgent care have been reporting. The caseload per investigator is still significant. We're working on decreasing those and getting those things done timely. The investigative team still looks at gaps in case processing and identifies some solutions. The most recent one this quarter was to address the receipt and storage of digital and or electronic media that's presented as evidence. So we work with agency IT and operations as to security issues. We've updated a procedure relating to access. We verify with IT when we get stuff in as to can we open it to make sure it's secure. We don't want our system to be shut down because we've uploaded a virus unnecessarily. So we're paying really caution to those things. There is a computer in the workroom that is not on the network that we can upload stuff to. We also use encryption, and we've been trained in encryption in our emails. We also receive some supplies, and all of the digital evidence that we have, we've gathered together, and Hannah is logging and labeling those and storing those so that we can maintain a chain of custody, because sometimes those evidence will be reviewed then by the disciplinary council. We want to make sure that if the investigator needs to review it, then it goes back into the storage lock cabinet, and that way it can be maintained for evidence that they needed a disciplinary hearing. So those are things that we've done this quarter, which I think is very good. Let's see. Another thing that we did was we looked at, in looking at the caseload for investigators, we've looked at the KSA 651120, which says that, the board shall look at sworn complaints. So we've been looking at those that are unsworn and determining if they're like from an anonymous or there's no licensee mentioned, or from professional review standpoint, we cannot identify a violation of the Nurse Practice Act. We are then not opening a case on those type of cases. That would be cases. And what that's doing then is we've created a spreadsheet that you will see in your spreadsheets that says complaints not opened. And so if the committee wants us to open a case and go forward, you can audit those if you want, and then tell us which ones you want us to open a case and go forward with, and we will do so. But it's like a way to kind of do a quality check on what we're doing, but yet at the same time alleviate some of the caseload that may not bear fruit for a disciplinary action. So you'll see that new spreadsheet in your spreadsheets, and I believe there's a motion for that one too, right? On the motions. The final thing was to look at the efficiency for case resolution through the disciplinary process. We have access to some baseline data, and so the average days that it takes for disciplinary counsel to take action is about 136 days, and we average that from back to 2020 through 2022 cases. The median days is about 91. And when we prioritize cases from critical to non-critical. Disciplinary action includes either no action is taken by the committee, or you do a warning letter, you do cleanup evaluations, public censures, you do suspend, revoke, limitations on licenses, and you'll do fines and C&Es. The categories we went back and looked at, primarily the categories of C&Es that you look at are critical thinking, documentation, Nurse Practice Act, legal ethical, medication narcotic administration, professional accountability, patient abandonment, professional boundaries, communication, resident rights, social media. So they can see any that you've been looking at. And then finally, the pie chart reflects number of cases where the investigative committee changed the original determination of discipline after the disciplinary attorneys review the case evidence. And about 25% of cases from 2020 to 2022 had their discipline changed. Some of the reasons that this is all just raw data. Some of the reasons that I was told was that the case was old. And therefore they didn't feel like they could go forward with what the previous decision was. And so they came back to you and said, we have this evidence. We don't feel like this is current. We'll do whatever. So you changed your discipline. The other one was current abuse of drugs. It's hard to determine what current is when the random UDS during, at the facility is day one, and then when it gets reported is 100 and some odd days later, and then it goes for us to do the case investigation, and then it gets to the board, you're looking at over a year. And so what is current, and that's what the language is in our statute and regs. So therefore that kind of is sometimes a barrier. But it just identifies more internal review of the evidence of what needs to be collected on our end at the investigative level to maybe support whatever type of disciplinary decision we want to make. So it's a learning process. It's been kind of fun to kind of like dive into some of that and figure out how we can do better. So that's the update. Any questions?
And I like it. I like that. That the AAG actions taken. I know some of that change in disposition due to gold cases could be because we were still, getting some of the older cases all taken care of, for lack of a better word. So I wonder if that might be not so high in the next time you update this, because I think we're now, seems like the cases now are coming to us
A little bit
not
tighter.
from 4 or 5 years ago. I mean, we're done with cleaning up all the stuff. So I'm anxious to see how that's gonna show, because it is very interesting, you're right, the definition of current in the statute is not. Okay, the other question. The updates, so now that we found out that we have to follow the coma procedure and the CAPA procedure for monthly. And this is $1 million question. Is there any feel how many cases we would be looking at after we went through this long lengthy procedure and work on this and to have a meeting? What would be the number, you guys?
I think we average around 60 to 75 per quarter, depending on the quarter. And now that we're fully staffed, I mean, you're looking at probably close to the 75 per quarter. So if you're looking at,
Divided by.
even if you do like a midway at 6 weeks between the quarter, you're looking at, so you're looking at maybe about 30. And if you do monthly, then you're looking at maybe max of 20. I mean, and what is feasible?
Yeah, I know that's a give or take. 'Cause sometimes it could be 20 and sometimes right? Couldn't it just be 5 or less? It just depends on how fast you're getting your evidence back.
Mhm.
That just feels like an awful lot of work on your end, the staff's end to do all that coma CAPA procedure. A meeting, let alone addressing the commitment of board members to do that. We don't even know what that looks like yet. So. But I do appreciate that. That was what we were waiting for, that answer to see how we could do it. And I agree, definitely it's not going to happen July 1 of 2020. And I don't know what the process would be after we've, met with the board to kind of give them an update on how the process has been updated and evaluated, and processes have been implemented, and the investigative committee members are all full except for one position. Is that right? One left. And I wonder how that would influence the board from that conversation we had at the retreat. Now that we're looking better anyway, as to how efficient we're being, or their, comfort on how fast the cases are going. Do you have any thoughts, Adrian?
I do. I think that what we're doing right now is working.
I do too.
I mean, given the staff that we have on your side and the board members that we have on our side and the changes of, positions and training and that, it's not going to happen this year. Unless we're cutting borders. I don't know if that's an appropriate way to put it, but, it's pretty much putting a lot of burden to make something work that's already working.
See, that sounds like, you just said that. I think that's what it sounds like. We're wanting to change something that now is working.
And Kayla, to kind of bring you up to date.
I was just going to ask. what you just said.
Oh,
The
sorry,
strategic-
I'm sorry.
The board had a strategic retreat last February. And it was decided that we needed to well, there was someone from, was it Georgia Board of Nursing, who came and talked about how they had changed meeting from quarterly to monthly to review cases. Now, every state law is different, and so I'm not sure what the difference is between Georgia and Kansas, but for Kansas to be able to do a more timely meeting, we would have to still use COMA and follow all of those procedures and you know, and then you would have to decide if you're meeting virtually or in person to review the case summaries that you just got. So C, you would get another grouping. And we sent those out about 2 weeks prior to meeting time, so that you could review those and then be ready to kind of like do those. But the thought, I think, was the goal was to timelier review of the case summaries to get them to disciplinary council so they can take action. But then once things go to disciplinary council, the judicial system takes, you know, plays a role also in how long it takes for something to go forward. So,
And in the past, what has been the timeframe? Because I feel like you, I felt like I reviewed the cases that were this year or last year.
Right.
Maybe the year before, but not too much further back. In the past, how long has it taken?
for a case investigation, on average, it's about 177 days.
Okay.
That's for investigation to get the summaries done, depending on the type of case.
Mhm.
Now, what happened was that in July of 2019, Kansas joined the Nurse Licensure Compact. And what that did then was that if we had a licensee who had a lapsed license, but had a multi-state from another state and was found to be violating the Nurse Practice Act, then we would have to go back in, and we had closed a case before, where then we had to go back in and reopen a previous case if we had another case come in and relook at all of it at one time. So you knew, then you had old cases with new cases being combined by the committee to then take action one time on. So it's cleanup at the same time as trying to get caught up.
Mhm.
Yeah. It's been a lot of little things kind of.
Yeah, I don't know for sure, but I was kind of getting the vibes of the feeling that the turnover for the KNAP failures, you know, we had to wait until the next board meeting to do something, and that has since been resolved with those motions that we passed. That gives the power of the chair to, you know, decision making to the chair of this committee. Now, that's greatly improved the turnaround for making decisions on KNAP years, you know, when they failed out. And I don't know if that was the mood, you know, during the meeting time, the frustration that it was taking, you know, in addition to all these cases, we were catching up. And on top of that, we didn't have a full force of investigators. It just kind of
Everything happened at once.
It all
yeah,
happened at once.
snowballed. But we also, I think the committee has also looked at the statutes, also in the regulations for applying to discipline. And so
That's true.
and we didn't have an impairment statute from what the attorneys had said. So I think that we've modeled one after Missouri.
I
Is that
think
the one that
so,
you-
yeah.
And so
Yeah.
those things are pending to go across the street. You know, they're in the queue because you don't send everything over at the same time, but we want to be strategic as when that goes up forward, because Carol has to take those. And so she needs to know that the committee and the board understand what they're asking of her to do. So, and we've had new board members, so we've had to educate. So it's a process.
It is.
You know, a couple years from now, we're probably a little bit better than we are right now, but we're getting there.
It's been a huge improvement process.
And like I said, we're still in the process of fine tuning what we've got. If we change right now, we're back to square one.
So I will present my update to the board during practice specialist report. But then during committee report out, you can discuss what the committee wants to do.
I
or
suppose we should
advise us to
put
the
the
board.
recommendation and bring forward to the board that. Well, what our outcome has been, you know, from this committee, is that how we work this, Carol?
Well, in listening to all of this, I think it would be helpful, you know, we had a few different board members that were part of the discussion at the retreat. So that's changed a little bit.
Yeah, they're not present.
And, you know, the message came across very clear to me that the priority was for the investigative division get them staff, get them what they needed to do their jobs. I believe we have made that a priority for the agency. So I think it would be helpful if the board heard all of the changes that have been made in the agency, because I agree somewhat with what you say. I think we need to see how everything goes now. And then see if there's changes, because I'll just be real truthful, there's not enough board members to do this. Unless you all think that you have time to do this, but you all have jobs, and I don't see, unless there's more board members coming forward, that this could work. And I think we've made a lot of changes in the agency to address the concerns that were brought up as far as agency-wise and what we should be doing. So I think it would be nice just to kind of see how all this goes. But yeah, you're probably gonna have to give some sort of recommendation back to the board, since, everything was from the strategic retreat.
And I think looking forward with the number of terms that are coming to some sort of event, I think there needs to be a focus on how do we maintain the current, like what made it better and how do you sustain that? And it sounds like the focus is on people and keeping them where they're at. And maybe doing that a little bit sooner than maybe 2 months before the term ends. That's what we were kind of,
It's-
yeah.
Yeah, it's very interesting how that process takes place. And unfortunately, we have nothing to say about
Well,
it.
that's true too. I mean,
Yeah, it's all done through the governor's office, so.
Well, I did verbalize that.
Well, we were.
by, leaving of messages and emails.
We were pretty vocal too, because when somebody comes in a term that another person left, that technically counts as their first term. And so we may only have them for 6 months and their term is over. Well, it takes a little while to get board member up to speed.
Yes.
And so we have vocalized that we don't think that's really a very effective way, but I think it's a statute, so it probably would have to be changed somewhere along the line.
Would the board submit that request, or does it have to come from someone else?
To change the statute,
Mhm.
let me look in the Nurse Practice Act well, it won't happen this year. I can tell you, there's only 2 more weeks, thank God, there's only 2 more weeks now. But, it's something that we could look on and take next year if it's out of the Nurse Practice Act. And I think we've got enough justification for them to understand our request, as long as they don't mess with anything else that's in there.
and that would help it be sustainable, because you would keep those same numbers in play, basically.
Yeah, I think it probably would have to have some discussion with the governor's office to see how they felt about it too, because if they didn't really feel like it was a good thing, then it's probably not to our advantage to take it forward, but
That's
I mean,
true.
we can see, yeah.
I think we have a good argument.
I think you do too, and I don't know if our board is the only one this way. I know that some of the other boards are having a hard time getting positions filled. Like we still have the RN education one out there that we haven't been able to fill, and that one really kind of surprises me, truthfully. But so we're kind of getting the word out to those in education to see. But I know some of the other boards are shorter than we are. So, yeah.
We shouldn't be complaining too loud.
We're just voicing our concern for everybody.
Yeah, and I agree.
We need
Yeah.
to find out if you have been renewed.
Well, supposedly they actually don't start on that till April, isn't
That's
it
what
what
she
you
said.
said? Yeah,
I can pull up the email that.
yeah.
that that's-
So it's really a little bit early.
If that's okay, they said they'd start in April.
We're close.
So by the end of April,
Oh, I wouldn't go so
I'll-
far as to say that.
No, what I
Might
was
be,
putting it
may.
on is to my follow-up with.
Oh, yeah,
When you're applying for something, it's always good to.
and we
follow up.
probably should share that with the other ones who are wanting to get reappointed. So maybe if everybody starts checking in with them.
I could just add, I'll go back through the June board meeting and maybe compile all of the various things that we worked on and the data that supports everything, because we have even 2 new board members now. So along with you, that way everybody's on the same page. I won't have it ready by Wednesday, but I can have it all ready by June's meeting. Gonna give an idea of what we've done this past year.
That's what I would like to share with all of them. And I know you can do it by Wednesday, absolutely, because there's a lot of stuff that's happened from that retreat and to today. There's a ton of stuff that's improved the process, absolutely. But for when, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just gonna add, that it looks like our
Yeah,
funding
maybe.
is gonna come through for the system enhancements. So if that happens, that becomes a 2-phase project. First phase is getting the code base, but the second phase is the case management system. And so remember, that's gonna be there and a factor as well. And although I would love to say everything's gonna be perfect, there's gonna be a learning curve. and
Right.
Work that has to be done by the staff. So
Again, that's another thing that we
Another
wouldn't
thing.
want to
Make
add
us
more
more
burden
efficient.
to,
Right.
more in the mix.
could,
Let's keep it simple.
could adjust your baseline a little bit as you're
Right,
You
working
can
right.
slow
on
down the
this
speed
progress,
up,
right.
basically, yeah. It'll help some efficiencies eventually, but even better, yeah.
And I'll just say the other thing, if you're thinking about amending statute, the other thing that could be looked at is when a person joins the board, their terms are their terms. They're not coming on to someone else's term and finishing that up. And maybe that other person's term is finished, period. And then when the new board member comes on, they're serving their complete terms. Because it belongs to them. I don't know how to say that. but,
It would
um,
I
lessen the
understand what
work.
you're saying. I
It would
need,
lessen the work for the governor's office, because then they wouldn't have to worry about it again on their workload.
I would think it would help them. I can't speak for everything that takes place on their part. And I'll look at the Nurse Practice Act, when I go back to my office. I think it may say in there that they come in to fill the empty term, but I'm not sure. So that would be the part that we would have to change. And I don't know how that is across the state. I don't know if we were to change it and be the only board. I don't know how that would be
The other boards
perceived.
might be interested in doing that.
And that's very true. Yeah,
If they're short of people.
yeah, yeah. And I don't know if the short is because there's not an interest, because some of what they've heard across the street is that what is keeping some people for wanting to be on boards is the low pay. I mean, what we pay you all a day is really, not very good. So that's why they have that bill to increase that, which it would be increased substantially if they go with what's over there right now, which would be good. It would start in July. Start July 1st with the new budget.
The money's nice, but I don't think that's why we serve.
And some people have said that too in the discussion that's taken place over there. But I guess for some boards, they feel like the low pay is stopping some people from doing it. I don't know. I think a lot of it is people are just very busy, and when you have another job and then you take on this, that can be a bit much sometimes.
I'm looking at ASA 74-1106, and it did say that it would be appointed to fill the vacant position first. When the vacancy occurs, it shall be filled by appointment for the remainder of the unexpired term in the same manner as the preceding appointment.
And there could be some parameters put on that, if it's less than a year or less than 2 years.
That makes sense, that would help. I think that would be.
And maybe something that
Yeah.
amends it to say that there's a little bit more fast track if they wish to do their second term.
I think what we also need to do, if you're going to take that over there with an amendment, is to look at the whole thing. Because there may be some other things in there that we need to change. So I can look at that and
Thank
see.
you.
There
I
may
know
be
that's another added thing, but
kinds to- Yeah.
Well, and I just think if they, to sustain, I mean, it sounds like things have improved immensely, but to sustain that, it's a people issue and not necessarily a process. The process has changed now. You have to have people to support it.
Well, Carol, would it work if we Wednesday just updated as far as come in June, we were going to present some data. You know, but that's our proposed start date.
Yeah, I mean, you're getting very close to it,
No,
unless they
with the
would,
recommendation to not implement.
yeah, unless they would be willing to push the implementation back. You know, hearing Linda's
Oh, in March,
presentation.
Wednesday I could ask. if
Yeah.
They would, yeah, be amenable to that.
Because again, the board members, there's been a change in board members
Right.
from that retreat.
Right.
Yeah,
And to talk about it, you know, and again, Wednesday, which they're gonna be, well, like Michaela was, I'm not sure what I understand what you're saying. But I would like to wait until Linda has, you know, that it's all nice, some agree of all the changes that have happened, that we can present in the board for the board to read, members to read it. Instead of having a
Right.
dialogue that takes a long time and have them don't understand what we're talking about because they're new. Along with the proposal to postpone implementation, not in 2023 yet, but that's just moving too fast.
well, I think it would be helpful if, yeah, they understand what the concerns were that were brought forward at the retreat, the priority that was put on that, because that was pretty much the biggest thing coming out of there to make happen. And we have done a lot of work on it. Maybe it's not where it needs to be right now, but there has been a lot done, and I would like the board to hear that. I really would, because I think we've made a lot of moves forward. So,
You need to write something to vote on today or just discuss it Wednesday.
I would say just discuss it on your report out. and-
Well, that's a nice job, all of you. It's. I've been here from the beginning to the end that you've been here and Ruth. And it has really improved, but it's helped that we have a full crowd here, investigators, that's helpful. We've improved the process. It's really exciting. Thank you all for your hard work. Yes, we appreciate you every day. Okay, then we'll move on to. Any more? Nothing. Okay, because now we're gonna move on to the CNAP statistics.
And that is in your board packet as well, starting on page 7. And this is from CNAP. They submit this for us on a quarterly basis. I found it interesting that the participants released from KNAP due to non-compliance, and then the reasons for referral included mental health and alcohol and drugs. So, you know, I know that we're seeing a lot of mental health issues, not just the drug diversions impairment, but in the cases that we're reviewing, so.
Can you clarify when the nursing employment status outside the profession, what is? Yeah.
The employment settings outside of the profession,
Yeah.
I would have to ask. Some of them are not currently working as a nurse, I would believe.
So that,
And I would
okay.
believe, yeah, and usually that's what we were told in the investigation, so. But as far as what profession they're doing, I don't.
I know some of them are working elsewhere, while they're still in King County. We know that's, maybe that's what they're counting that as. These are fun to read. Thank you for providing them. Very interesting. Okay, we'll move on to the 5-year legislative review, and we have 5, 6, 7. Looks like to review.
Just to kind of give you an update and kind of help Michaela, these are statutes and regs that are allocated for the investigative committee to review, and they're on like a 5-year rotational basis. Obviously, if something does change in the interim of 5 years and you want to change language on something, then that's, we can look at that, but we have all of 2023 through December of 2023's board meeting to approve these. So if you want to make changes, we'll make changes and bring them back in June until we find the wording that you want. So there's no rush to get them all done today.
Thank you. Okay, we'll start with 6542 and the disciplinary procedures. This is applying to mental health technician. I read through that and I didn't see anything.
I didn't either.
So we do the move. I move to approve KSA 654210 disciplinary proceedings as written.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion is carried. Okay, the second one is the 654211, the judicial review. And I didn't have any corrections to this one either. Kayla or maybe we get time to.
I did not see anything to change.
I did not either.
And you have McKinney, want to try that?
I move to approve KSA 654211 judicial review as written.
There's a second.
Oh, I second.
It's reviewed and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion is carried. Next, we have KSA 4213 injunctions.
I did not have any changes. I'll move to approve KSA 654213 injunctions as written.
There's a second.
Adrian Goldsmith, board member, second.
Been approved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion is carried. We have 654214 violations and penalties.
Didn't see anything to change on
You can do it.
I move to approve KSA 654214 violations, penalties as written.
that. I second that.
It has been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. About to ask for abstentions. Motion is carried. Next is 654215, practice of medicine not authorized. Again, related to a licensed mental health technician to practice medicine or surgery. Did you have any issues or correction?
No corrections.
All right, I'll read this one. I move to approve KSA 654215 practice of medicine not authorized as written.
I'll second that.
It has been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
No.
Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Any abstentions? Motion is carried. Now, we have 654216. It's a report of certain actions of mental health technicians, persons required to report medical care facilities which fails to report subject to civil fines definitions. So it's a little smidge longer.
I have no corrections. I'll move to approve KSA 654216 reporting as written.
Adrian Goldsmith, second.
Thank you. It has been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Any abstention? Motion carries. And the last one is 654217, immunity from liability in civil actions for reporting, communicating, or investigating.
I didn't see any changes.
I had a hard time understanding this one. So immunity from liability and civil actions.
Is that, because we don't have AG here, but
I know, I think that basically gives protections of who's reporting.
they won't sue you for returning the week,
Yeah,
Okay.
kind of like nursing has. kind of.
Did that get you?
It did help.
It did help.
It's
Um,
pretty legal, the verbiage here, but that's kind of, that I-
We're ready.
Okay.
I move to
So-
approve. Oh, sorry.
Actually, I do have some discussion.
go
So
ahead.
immune from liability of any civil action. And then does that include HIPAA?
is that be a question for our general counsel?
We could hold on this one.
We want to hold and get,
We do not have to approve all these, but we could hold on this one and do some further.
Right, so yeah, my thing is that this keeps the person from suing you personally and that the information that you may have to give could be a violation of this theoretically.
so we can have general counsel weigh in, or not.
He's actually on, I believe.
He's in as an attendee, but we can let him in.
Hey, Charles, this is Carol. Is it okay if we bring you across?
Well, you won't be able to answer till.
Well, you won't be able to answer, sorry. If we could bring you across, then maybe you can weigh in on this. I don't know. Colton, can we bring him across?
I was gonna say if he accepts, he's coming over.
All right, okay. I forget the process sometimes.
I didn't even look up there to see this.
Hello, good morning.
Morning, Charles.
Which one did you have the question about? 4217?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
You're good.
And if we need to, bring this back in
Oh, yeah.
June, we can. I don't know.
There's no urgency.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll look at that and get back to you.
Okay.
Your question was, did that protect you from violations of HIPAA?
Yes, sir. That is correct.
Okay,
Yeah, the statute just says civil. So.
He's going to then give out this. Okay, so we'll hold off on that one and put it on the June agenda, please. Next on the agenda is judicial. And we do have a motion for that.
We do. So I move the meeting of the investigation committee be closed to deliberate on matters relating to decisions involving the exercise of quasi judicial functions as authorized by KSA 2013. I'm not sure if you said sub 75-4318 G1.
There's a second?
Yes, there's a second. I'll second that.
Moved and seconded, all in favor, say aye.
All right.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. So we'll reconvene after the quasi judicial.
Ready for me to shut off, Colton?
Yes, no.
Okay, I don't know.
We need a short word for.
Oh, are you just gonna mute and turn the camera off?
Huh?
Yeah, yeah, you can do that if you want.
Hey Colton. Are you back on? Yeah, he's right. Think he's come up. Can you hear us?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
There we go. Sorry, couldn't find the button. But you are good to go.
Thank you. Well, welcome back. We have reconvened after our quasi judicial session. So we will continue with our meeting, and the next item on the agenda is the agenda items for the June 2023.
Oh, do you have motions for the spreadsheets?
Oh,
Sorry.
sorry. Yes, Linda, you're right. There's motions to read from the spreadsheet. I forgot. All those. All of these. Oh, okay. Yeah. All of them. Yep. Okay, we have motions to read first before we jump to the agenda. Yes.
So do you, I guess we first. Okay. I move the investigation committee find the following cases be closed for the reason that no action is needed.
And your second?
Yes, I will second that.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Any abstentions? Motion carries.
That's what I was.
There was also one on the bottom of this page that was a judicial.
You got it.
I move that the investigative committee find that reasonable grounds exist for believing the applicant or licensee is guilty of violating the Kansas Starts Practice Act in the following cases. And that those cases be continued for further proceedings conducted in accordance with the provisions of the Kansas Administrative Procedure Act. I'll make that move. I'll move.
And I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Oh, hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Now we can move on to the spreadsheets and.
So this is the reinstatement. I move that the investigation committee approve by consensus the case disposition represented on the spreadsheet titled reinstatement applications.
I'll second that.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
I move that the investigative committee approve by consensus the case disposition represented on the spreadsheet entitled conversions.
I second that. You're making the motion, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
I move that the investigation committee approve by consensus the case disposition represented on the spreadsheet titled endorsement applications.
I'll second.
Second. Been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
And I move that the investigative committee approve by consensus the case disposition represented on the spreadsheet entitled inactivated by staff.
Second that.
Every second, okay. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
I move that the investigation committee approve by consensus the case disposition represented on the spreadsheet titled new grads.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
And I move that the investigative committee approve by consensus the case disposition represented on the spreadsheet entitled cases not open.
I second that.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. That concludes the motion. Thank you. Now we will move on to agenda items for June of 2023.
I had down, I'll do an overview of the efficiencies and process changes since our board retreat. Carol's gonna bring back the terms of board members and language. And you wanted Charles to comment on this KSA 654217.
That's correct. Yeah.
To provide legal advice or whatever about the language. Is there anything else that you want to be?
Could you think of anything else about agenda items next for June?
Okay.
I don't think so. I don't think we have any more.
And I think the sustainability of the process for investigative, that's not an agenda item that we discussed or.
That'll be a discussion, that I'll do in the overview.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, that'll do. I guess this meeting will be adjourned. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thanks, Colton.